Would Diddy still be considered a high value man, high value male, after everything that came out in the trial in the eyes of most women?
Yes.
Who considers
Yes.
Diddy a high value male?
Women.
Everybody.
Women.
Everybody. I don't think everyone has the same definition of high value man.
He's just rich. That does not make him have high value, though. Not
But
to
that's what
me.
women care about.
Like I said, most women think if you're rich, you're high
Right.
value.
Yeah.
Agreed. But then Kevin Samuel, I mean, I'm not saying that like
I
he's the ruler. I'm just saying, did
I'm
didn't
telling most
Kevin?
people off the internet, they if you just say it's a motherfucker who ain't never been on YouTube, if you say anything about high value, they ain't gonna say shit about character.
No. I'm saying I thought one of Kevin's points about high value was a part of it was determined by what other men thought of the man.
Well, okay,
So I'm
so
just I'm
if we're going
ask
by
like
Kevin's definition of a high value man, and y'all don't have to go by this. We can debate this in different ways. But what Kevin's perspective was is, and I think that if he was alive today, he would probably raise the amount that men make. First, he would say that he had to be six figures, right? I think he would raise the amount. Me and Kev went back and forth, and I actually disagreed with him when he said you just got to make six figures. I think that you got to make more to can be considered a high value male, right? As far as how he was defining it. Not seven figures, but more than just 100,000. But Kev said you got to make six figures. Another thing that he said was you had to be able to sustain it. So, for example, you had entertainers and athletes that only made a certain amount of money for a couple of years or a few years, right? Because, like for example, the average NBA player is in less than 5 years. But whereas if you had a profession, let's say if you were a CEO or you a doctor, whatever, your ability to be able to sustain a high level of income over a longer period of time is what also defines you as a high value man. Also, your profession, right? If you are, you know,
LinkedIn level is what he called it.
if you were a dope dealer, right, but you made a lot of money, that didn't necessarily qualify you as a high value man. But if you did something legal that also, you can attach a label to you that will be respected by other people, that also considers it. The organizations that you may, adding value to other men, can they network with you and stuff like that. So his definitions of a high value man extended beyond
Money.
just the money that you made, but at the same
Hmm.
time, I don't think that it also. I've never heard him say anything as far as like morally. You know what I'm saying? I didn't hear him say
Yeah.
or define it to mean anything as far as how you lived your life. It was more or less what qualified you to do the things that you do and have the freedom to do what you wanted to do when you want to do it.
Fact. So for me, I actually believe even if Diddy was, found guilty on a prostitution charge, I believe most women actually, probably 99% of women who are looking for a man would rather be with Diddy than with a man who goes to church every Sunday but has no money, than with a man who has never committed a single crime. If we're gonna be honest, they would rather get on a jet with Diddy than with Boogie, who's gonna make them walk to the park and talk. Diddy's gonna put them on a jet and take them to Dubai. Private jet and do whatever they want. Give them a black card to go shopping, do whatever they want. Most women will choose Diddy over Boogie has never committed a crime. Let's just be honest.
So
and that's why I'm saying I was asking that because I'm thinking that depending on the group of people, some of this stuff, like I think that there's probably a lot of men who they might not get down with what Diddy did, but I don't know that that would make them not do business with him after a certain period of time. Like I don't know, but I would base my answer off of what I think men would do as it relates to Diddy as opposed to women. So
why you say that?
because I bought into the definition that Kevin mentioned and that you just mentioned, I do think that a man's value is more so determined by the community of other high value men or other not other men.
His she's trying to say a man's productivity. Like how much money is society willing to pay for his services? So for example, a doctor, society is willing to pay enough money for him, but then at the same time, a doctor is more important than a basketball player. But then the basketball player gets paid much more than a doctor. So whatever society is willing to pay for someone's service, that's the value. That's their value, in my opinion.
And it seems like there are, if we're not going to put morality on the table, then it seems like there might be other men who
Well, you
might
can define
engage
it
in.
however you see fit. I'm not,
I would like to think the high value would include the morality, in which case I would say Diddy got kicked down. But if morality and principles is not at play, then I could see where he'd still, in some communities of people, would still be in that bucket. But I say he got suspended. He's not. No, I would say he got suspended for a while. That's what I would think. Because I don't know if people will really, I don't know if he still will have the same level of influence right now because of what's going on. So I don't know. I'm curious of what y'all think.
The only reason people may not, and when I say people, I mean like other like celebrities or people of high status may not want to deal with Diddy, is because they don't want to lose their brand deals. But I can guarantee you, because of how rich Diddy is, he's still going to have people work with him behind the scenes. They may not walk out in public with him and share photos the way they used to do, but they're still going to work with him. He still has the money. He still has the creativity when it comes to music production, publishing, and the music business, and the liquor business. He still has that resume, so people will still work with him, but it will be behind the scenes.
Well, Molly clearly had a different perspective.
My background is a little bit loud. No, I just don't think, I think what men think is high value. You can be rich. I don't think that just makes you high value because you're rich, because being a slime ball to me is not high value. You can't, like, I don't know. Just, you have to be trustworthy to me. I think that's high value. I wouldn't see Diddy as trustworthy.
Yeah, but women don't care about if a man is trustworthy or not. They care, does he have the money, and is he gonna spend it on me? That's why men who go to jail all the time have women, because obviously they have the protection aspect, and then that they're fearless if they commit crimes, but also um they have the masculinity aspect, but also sometimes the drug dealers have the money to spend on the women. So that's why some women will choose the drug dealers over a normal guy who works as a truck driver, because they don't care about trustworthy.
So the question on the table for everybody is: would y'all still see Diddy as a high value man, according to what the super chat said?
Personally, I wouldn't, but I think, like Quentin says, most women are just looking at money and they're still going to think that he's high value and they're still going to volunteer to get beat up and drugged down a hallway covered in baby oil.
Facts.
Oh, and that's a
Fact.
good point. I didn't
They
read
still
the whole
going.
thing. In the eyes of most women, no, I don't think
No,
that
that was
they
me
would
said
still.
that. That was me.
No, I'm just, because Anton said the super chat, and I'm real. He said in the eyes of women. So I don't think most women publicly would consider him high value.
That's a good qualifier publicly.
Yeah,
One of
behind
the
closed
one of the
And
doors.
things
them text messages behind the scenes.
Yeah.
one of the things that was communicated during the trial, or that was revealed through the Jane, who was largely considered 50 Cent's baby mama, was that everybody didn't necessarily have the same experience with Diddy. So, for example, this recent video where a woman that was identified as one of his exes said, reporters asked her, hey, if Diddy got out. Would you consider him scary? She was like, no, he ain't scary. What are y'all talking about? Whatever. Right. So she wasn't feeling some type of way. They said that Young Miami's experience with him was great, how she would define it. Right. So there are several different people and women that saying that their experience with him is not the same as what they painted him out to be as far as the experience with Cassie, right? That they've never seen and experienced any kind of level of abuse or all of that type of stuff, right? So,
But the
um,
Cassie's emotions were more involved than these women, I would assume.
Yeah, because Cassie was with him for almost 10 years or even more, but also because, he didn't marry her like she wanted to. But I think the women who have an issue with it is because maybe he started moving on. Like when they were showing that some of those text messages, Cassie was saying she didn't like the fact that he was treating other women the way he was treating her. In other words, spending money on her. But what do you guys think about that? For me personally, I believe most women will still choose Diddy. Maybe not in the public, but behind closed scenes, most women would rather be with the Diddy, with all his freakiness, over a guy like me, over a normal guy, if we're gonna be honest. Because again, it goes back to the money. But a shout out to Anton, link down below.